Hey, I'm live. Who is it I'm live to? It's one person. Is it Danny or John? Or both? It'll be both. Can't see the chat though. Okay, now I can see it, and I'm going to restore the chat into the little side thing. I didn't do anything with my hair, did I? Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. That's not the point. The point is, are you there, Danny? And did you have a good birthday? That's the point of that. Hey, what's up? I had to pop out the chat to to actually see anything. Thank you. This is Danny's pre-birthday acknowledgement present. I don't think the shadows are doing him any particular favors, but they are enormous to the point where it's frightening. I mean, not frightening to me. I see them all the time. But yes, it was Danny's birthday yesterday, and I didn't know, and I missed it. And also, I don't have a gift for her, and we can't actually send gifts at the moment. So, yeah. I'm wearing the yes. Thank you. I've got a brown, and I've got a wee push-up device as well. Not that they really need it, but I thought, you know. What? Buying them? You can't buy them. Yeah, you can't. Oh, I can't send presents or buy them. Yeah. No, this is a Wuthering Heights Liveread. This is not a bidding war for my considerable natural assets. They're doing great. I've started I don't know if everyone in the chat knows, but about 2 years ago I joked on Twitter that I called them Don Jr. and Eric, and unfortunately that stuck in my head. And I thought of them like that for ages. I've just been starting to call them Tim and Eric, so I think we're moving in the right direction. Oh, people are scared by my enormous boobs. Well, they're scared that I'll yell at them. Actually, everyone's scared I'll yell at them, so that makes sense. Anyway, I'm going to try and remain sitting upright so they stay in frame. Tilt that forward a little bit, but have the book open like that. Oh, I'm going to have to do good posture if I want to read the book. Okay. Hi, Evelyn. The boobs are for Danny's birthday yesterday. We're going to recap, and then we're going to dive straight in. And I don't know what else. So yesterday we did. We started with recap time. Recap time. It makes me laugh when I do that. I'm sorry. I know. It's like a sexual thing, but it just cracks me up the way they bounce up and down like blancmanges. Anyway, yesterday we covered the first 12 years after Kathy dies. So young Kathy is being raised by Nellie and Edgar Linton at Thrushcross Grange, where Nellie repeatedly said, while your dad is away, don't go out to Penistone Crags. Not because it's near Wuthering Heights, because you don't know anything about that, but because you can't do that. Don't do that. Also, I think you should go riding your pony outdoors for hours at a time without any supervision. So somehow, and God knows how, um, Kathy too winds up at Wuthering Heights. I could have seen that coming. I can't sneeze. I can't sneeze. I'm sorry. But meanwhile, Hareton Earnshaw, Hindley's son, he is being brought up like a servant, basically. I don't think he realizes he owns the house. But he knows he's an Earnshaw and he's very proud of it. He's 18 by the time Kathy arrives there. She's only 13, so it's not really on. So I'll cover that. Young Kathy winds up at Wuthering Heights and she's been having a great chat with the servant there, Zilla, and with Hareton, who is 18, so they've been chatting away. Nellie shows up and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing here? I didn't machinate this, or did I?" And then young Kathy goes, "Yes, stable boy, ready my horse, you fucking serf, you peasant." And Hareton is like, "Shut your fucking mouth. I'm not going to do anything for you, you bitch." And young Kathy has never been spoken to in this way in her life. So she starts crying. And then Hareton brings her a puppy to cuddle and says he's sorry for making her cry. And she's like, "Oh, piss off, peasant. I don't want you to be my cousin. No, that's horrible. You're not my cousin." So she has no manners, right? Sorry. Oh, pray for me to be able to sneeze at some point during this. Okay. And then, Nellie takes Kathy home, basically. And our third member of the next generation is Isabella's son. She went to London, and Heathcliff didn't really give a shit. So Isabella had her son in London, and she named him Linton Heathcliff because there were already plenty of names to choose from. So why not? And Heathcliff himself has no interest in his son until Isabella dies, when the son is about 12. He's 6 months younger than young Kathy. So Isabella dies, and Edgar Linton, who went up there to be with her in her last illness, brings her son back with him. Which is, we're kind of flashing back to the beginning of the book here, where the dad of the family brings home a little boy with no parents. But Linton Heathcliff has a parent. It's his daddy. So when he finds out that Hindley is at Thrushcross Grange, he sends Joseph right away to pick up Linton. It's so hard to get everybody straight. Yes, and so young Kathy meets Linton, and she's like, "Oh, he's such a darling. I'm going to give him a hug, and we're going to be playmates, and we're going to have so much fun together." And her dad is like, "Well, okay, go easy, because he's grieving and he's really tired. We just came here in one of those fucked up carriages with no springs in it, all the way from London." And Nellie, who's not in a monologue, but who's recounting of these times to Mr. Lockwood, we can kind of get in her head. Nellie is just so contemptuous of this little boy. She's like, "Wow, he was crying. He was tired after, traveling in a carriage all day. He was crying after his mommy died, and he was brought to a house he'd never been before by strangers to live there forever now. Oh, unbelievable. What a wuss. He would never last here in the wild and windy moors." Because she's a bitch. Whether Linton actually is a little shit or not, we don't actually know yet. And just from the things that Nellie's been describing to me and to all of us, he just sounds like a little boy who was scared and lost his mummy. Let me see if I can pop the chat back in because that'll make things easier for me. Unable to connect to chat. Okay, I'll pop it out again. And there we go. So sorry about all the sniffing. So Joseph comes that night to pick up Linton, who is the... Oh, shit, how did this work? I can't remember all the inheritances and things, but he's Isabella's son, so... he sends Joseph, and Edgar Linton is like, no, I'm not going to wake him up so you can drag him across the moors to Wuthering Heights, which is highly cursed. And Joseph's like, fine, Heathcliff will be here in the morning. Chuck him out if you want. The end. This, I get a little bit uncomfortable for me, so there we go. That's good. You can still see him? Good. Don't know why I want to even bother to do makeup. Wuthering Heights, chapter 20. However many, I can't count. Wuthering Heights, chapter 20. Joseph has just threatened to send Heathcliff around in the morning. To obviate the danger of this threat being fulfilled, Mr. Linton commissioned me to take the boy home early on Catherine's pony, and, said he, as we shall now have no influence over his destiny, good or bad, you must say nothing of where he has gone to my daughter. She cannot associate with him hereafter, and it is better for her to remain in ignorance of his proximity, lest she should be restless and anxious to visit the Heights. Merely tell her his father sent for him suddenly, and he has been obliged to leave us. Cathy is very attached to young Linton at the moment. Linton was very reluctant to be roused from his bed at 5 o'clock. Yeah, no shit. And astonished to be informed that he must prepare for further travelling. But I softened off the matter by stating that he was going to spend some time with his father, Mr. Heathcliff, who wished to see him so much he did not like to defer the pleasure till he should recover from his late journey. Sorry about sniffing. I've had a Zyrtec. They're the ones that work for me. My father, he cried in strange perplexity. Mamma never told me I had a father. Where does he live? I'd rather stay with Uncle. He lives a little distance from the Grange, I replied, just beyond those hills. Not so far, but you may walk over here when you get hearty. And you should be glad to go home and to see him. You must try to love him, as you did your mother, and then he will love you. Nellie's kind of setting them up to fail here because Heathcliff no longer really responds to loving behaviour, does he? Sorry. But why have I not heard of him before? Asked Linton. Why didn't Mamma and he live together, as other people do? He had business to keep him in the north, I answered, and your mother's health required her to reside in the south. And why didn't Mamma speak to me about him? Persisted the child. She often talked of Uncle, and I learned to love him long ago. How am I to love Papa? I don't know him. Oh, all children love their parents, I said. Your mother perhaps thought you would want to be with him if she mentioned him often to you. Let us make haste. An early ride on such a beautiful morning is much preferable to an hour's more sleep. It absolutely is not. Oh my god. I'm sorry I can't blow my nose. If I do, I'll have a nosebleed. It's the truth. Where's that? Ah. Wondering where that shadow's coming from. Oh, it doesn't matter. Is she to go with us? He demanded. The little girl I saw yesterday. Not now, replied I. Is uncle? He continued. No, I shall be your companion there, I said. Linton sank back on his pillow and fell into a brown study. I won't go without uncle, he cried at length. I can't tell where you mean to take me. He's such an obstinate, selfish boy, not wanting to go off with yet another stranger who's not even blood related to him. I attempted to persuade him of the naughtiness of showing reluctance to meet his father. Still, he obstinately resisted any progress towards dressing, and I had to call for my master's assistance in coaxing him out of bed. It's that John Mulaney bit about going to a secondary location. He doesn't want that. The poor thing was finally got off with several delusive assurances that his absence would be short, that Mr. Edgar and Kathy would visit him, and other promises, equally ill-founded, which I invented and reiterated at intervals throughout the day. I bet you did, Nellie. The pure heather-scented air, the bright sunshine, and the gentle canter of Minnie relieved his despondency after a while. He began to put questions concerning his new home and its inhabitants, with greater interest and liveliness. Is Wuthering Heights as pleasant a place as Thrushcross Grange? He inquired, turning to take a last glance into the valley, where light mist mounted and formed a fleecy cloud on the skirts of the blue. It is not so buried in trees, I replied, and it is not quite so large, but you can see the country beautifully all round, and the air is healthier for you, fresher and drier. You will perhaps think the building old and dark at first, though it is a respectable house, the next best in the neighbourhood. And you will have such nice rambles on the moors. Hareton Earnshaw, that is Miss Kathy's other cousin, and so yours in a manner, will show you all the sweetest spots, and you can bring a book in fine weather and make a green hollow your study. And now and then your uncle may join you in a walk. He does frequently walk out on the hills. And what's my father like? He asked. Is he as young and handsome as uncle? He's as young, said I, but he has black hair and eyes, and looks sterner, and he is taller and bigger altogether. He'll not seem to you so gentle and kind at first, perhaps, because it is not his way. Still, mind you, be frank and cordial with him, and naturally he'll be fonder of you than any uncle, for you are his own. Oh, Nellie. Oh, yeah, also he is evil. Yeah. Not as evil as me, Nellie Dean, but, not a good dude. Black hair and eyes, mused Linton. I can't fancy him. You shouldn't fancy your dad. Come on, Linton. Then I am not like him, am I? Not much, I answered. Not much, I answered. Not a morsel, I thought, surveying with regret the white complexion and slim frame of my companion, and his large, languid eyes. His mother's eyes, save that, unless a morbid touchiness kindled them a moment, they had not a vestige of her sparkling spirit. How strange that he should never come to see Mamma and me, he murmured. Has he ever seen me? If he has, I must have been a baby. I remember not a single thing about him. It's kind of weird that Linton Heathcliff has never actually asked his mother where his dad is. Weird. Why, Master Linton, said I, 300 miles is a great distance, and 10 years seem very different in length to a grown-up person compared with what they do to you. It is probable Mr. Heathcliff proposed going from summer to summer, but never found a convenient opportunity, and now it is too late. Don't trouble him with questions on the subject. It will disturb him for no good. Josh, what's up? I'm doing the um I'm doing the cam girl low cut top thing because it was Danny's birthday yesterday and I've forgotten and I didn't get her anything. Also, Linton Heathcliff is being taken to Wuthering Heights by Nellie, who is feeding him a bunch of bullshit about how he's going to love it there. And yeah, your dad he's probably a good dude. He could be fine. He might not be evil. The boy was fully occupied with his own cogitations for the remainder of the ride, till we halted before the farmhouse garden gate. I watched to catch his impressions in his countenance. It's showing me top chat again rather than latest chat. Why would it do that? I mean, it didn't actually change anything because we haven't been chatting much, we've been listening, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I wanted to catch his impressions in his countenance. He surveyed the carved front and low-browed lattices, the straggling gooseberry bushes and crooked firs, with solemn intentness, and then shook his head. His private feelings entirely disapproved of the exterior of his new abode. But he had sense to postpone complaining. There might be compensation within. Before he dismounted, I went and opened the door. It was 6:30. The family had just finished breakfast. The servant was clearing and wiping down the table. Joseph stood by his master's chair, telling some tale concerning a lame horse, and Hareton was preparing for the hayfield. "Hello, Nellie," said Mr. Heathcliff when he saw me. "I feared I should have to come down and fetch my property myself. You've brought it, have you? Let us see what we can make of it." He got up and strode to the door. Hareton and Joseph followed in gaping curiosity. Poor Linton ran a frightened eye over the faces of the three. "Surely," said Joseph after a grave inspection, "he's swapped with your master, and that's his daughter." Why would Edgar Linton send Kathy to Wuthering Heights? "Joseph, you bitch." Heathcliff, having stared his son into an ague of confusion, uttered a scornful laugh. "God, what a beauty! What a lovely, charming thing!" he exclaimed. "Haven't they reared it on snails and sour milk, Nellie? Oh, damn my soul, but that's worse than I expected. And the devil knows I was not sanguine." Unfortunately, Linton takes after Isabella a lot, and Heathcliff hates Isabella, even though she's dead already. I bid the trembling and bewildered child get down and enter. He did not thoroughly comprehend the meaning of his father's speech, or whether it were intended for him. Indeed, he was not yet certain that the grim, sneering stranger was his father. But he clung to me with growing trepidation, and on Mr. Heathcliff's taking a seat and bidding him come hither, he hid his face on my shoulder and wept. Remember, this is a 12-year-old boy who just lost the only parent he's ever known. "Tut, tut," said Heathcliff, stretching out a hand and dragging him roughly between his knees, then holding up his head by the chin. "None of that nonsense. We're not going to hurt thee, Linton. Isn't that thy name? Thou art thy mother's child entirely. Where is my share in thee, puling chicken?" Definitely going to call my nieces and nephews puling chickens next time I'm up north. He took off the boy's cap and pushed back his thick flaxen curls, felt his slender arms and his small fingers, during which examination Linton ceased crying and lifted his great blue eyes to inspect the inspector. "Do you know me?" asked Heathcliff, having satisfied himself that the limbs were all equally frail and feeble. "No," said Linton, with a gaze of vacant fear. "You've heard of me, I dare say." "No," he replied again. "No! What a shame of your mother never to waken your filial regard for me. You are my son, then, I'll tell you. and your mother was a wicked slut to leave you in ignorance of the sort of father you possessed. Now, don't wince and colour up, though it is something to see you have not white blood. Be a good lad, and I'll do for you. Nelly, if you're tired, you may sit down. If not, get home again. I guess you'll report what you hear and see to the cipher at the Grange, and this thing won't be settled while you linger about it. This thing is his grieving son. Well, replied I hope you'll be kind to the boy, Mr. Heathcliff, or you'll not keep him long, and he's all you have of kin in the wide world that you will ever know. Remember that. Oh, I'll be very kind to him, you needn't fear, he said, laughing. Only nobody else must be kind to him. I'm jealous of monopolizing his affection. And to begin my kindness, Joseph, bring the lad some breakfast. Hareton, you infernal calf, begone to your work. Yes, Nell, he added when they had departed. My son is prospective owner of your place, and I should not wish to see him die till I was certain of being his successor. Besides, he's mine, and I want the triumph of seeing my descendant fairly lord of their estates. My child hiring their children to till their father's lands for wages. That is the sole consideration which can make me endure the whelp. I despise him for himself, and hate him for the memories he revives. But that consideration is sufficient. He's as safe with me, and shall be tended as carefully as your master tends his own. I have a room upstairs, furnished for him in handsome style. I've engaged a tutor also, to come 3 times a week, from 20 miles distance, to teach him what he pleases to learn. I've ordered Hareton to obey him, and in fact have arranged everything, with a view to preserve the superior and the gentleman in him above his associates. I do regret, however, that he so little deserves the trouble. If I wished any blessing in the world, it was to find him a worthy object of pride, and I'm bitterly disappointed in the way-faced, whining wretch. Hi, Lynn Pesca, welcome. He's a spite son. I can't do Larry David. I can do Bernie Sanders if you don't care if it's good or not. While he was speaking, Joseph returned bearing a basin of milk porridge and placed it before Linton, who stirred round the homely mess with a look of aversion and affirmed he could not eat it. I saw the old manservant shared largely in his master's scorn of the child, though he was compelled to retain the sentiment in his heart, because Heathcliff plainly meant his underlings to hold him in honour. Cannot eat it, replied he, peering in Linton's face, and subduing his voice to a whisper for fear of being overheard. There are only 3 surnames in this book, and Linton Harecliff has them all. See, it's good, isn't it? It's so fucking bad. Also, now Nellie is kind of telling off Heathcliff and Joseph for thinking that Linton is such a weak little boy. That's what you think, Nellie. You're welcome. One time I was going to play a D&D game, and they asked me to choose a character, and I said I wanted to be Bernie Sanders. Thank you. I like yelling. And they were like, "Oh, okay, you're going to be a dwarf or something, or Bernie Sanders troll or orc or something." And I was like, "No, I'm going to be the human man, Bernie Sanders, and I'm not really going to understand the world around me because I just woke up in D&D." And they were like, "Yes, definitely do that," but the game didn't actually come to pass because I got sick, I think. Yeah, I got sick and I could only play one game at a time. Anyway, Linton says he cannot eat it. But Master Hareton never ate anything else when he was a little one. And what were good enough for him is good enough for you, I'd rather think. Lynn, if you're new, I'm just translating Joseph. I tried to do the voice to begin with, but it's insane. I shan't eat it, answered Linton snappishly. Take it away. Joseph snatched up the food indignantly and brought it to us. Is there anything wrong with this meal? He asked, thrusting the tray under Heathcliff's nose. What should be wrong with it? He said. Wah! Answered Joseph. That your dainty chap says he cannot eat it. But I guess it's right. His mother was just so. We were almost too dirty to sow the corn for making her bread. Don't mention his mother to me, said the master angrily. Get him something that he can eat, that's all. What's his usual food, Nellie? I suggested boiled milk or tea, and the housekeeper received instructions to prepare some. Come, I reflected, his father's selfishness may contribute to his comfort. He perceives his delicate constitution and the necessity of treating him tolerably. I'll console Mr. Edgar by acquainting him with the turn Heathcliff's humour has taken. Having no excuse for lingering longer, I slipped out, while Linton was engaged in timidly rebuffing the advances of a friendly sheepdog. But he was too much on the alert to be cheated. As I closed the door, I heard a cry, and a frantic repetition of the words, Don't leave me. I'll not stay here. I'll not stay here. Then the latch was raised and fell. They did not suffer him to come forth. I mounted Minnie and urged her to a trot, and so my brief guardianship ended. He has this. Oh, hello, Fitz. Good boy. He has this Yorkshire accent, but it's all like typed out, and I can't think of doing the accent and go along with what's typed out at the same time. It just doesn't work for whatever reason. So yeah, I tried to do Joseph initially, and it was just did not work. It wasn't good. Plus, no one had any idea what he was saying, so just translating is probably better. I'm going to have a look at the next chapter to see if it's short enough that we can keep going, but if it isn't, yeah, no, it goes on for fucking ever. I am going to stop reading this today and stream some Stardew Valley later on, or now, or whenever. But thank you all for being here. Very happy that you're here. I need a strepsil. I have to figure out how to talk without it hurting my throat. Maybe if I talked every day. I love you, Evelyn. I told our friend about the heated blanket thing, and she's very excited. So, thank you, Danny. Happy birthday. We'll talk about your birthday later on. I'll Google chat you later tonight. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Join me again tomorrow. And there they go. Happy birthday. I'm an angel. Stop. Thank you, Josh.